Hi, my name is Vivien Jovet. I work at Lanti, and thank you for joining this session. I will talk about Martini Designer, AI native enterprise application development with Eclipse Theia. So I will talk about our journey developing with Theia, why we migrated to it, and also all the AI features that we managed to implement thanks to Theia AI. And there will be also a demo as well. So before to start talking about Martini, I want to quickly talk about the problem we set out to solve when we started the development. First is that enterprise tooling is fragmented across APIs, automation, and application development. The low code alone can limit professional developers' control. So it's often frustrating with a low code solution when you want to customize the behavior or implement something that's not supported and specific to your use case. And on the other hand, the pure code can slow the teams, especially the less technical one. So we needed one IDE that supports visual design for the low code and also code editing and scales to both desktop and web browser. So introducing Martini Designer, this is our unified IDE for APIs, integrations, automations, and custom application development. It is available as desktop and online via web browser. And it's built on Eclipse Theia, of course, and we also leverage the language server protocol and VS Code extensions for language support. So originally, when we started developing Martini Designer, we did it with Eclipse RCP because it was our best option at the time. And we developed it for a few years. We went quite far with it, but along the way, we've hit some pain points that made us look for another solution. So we decided to put that version in maintenance mode and look for something else. So the pain points that we've hit were that it was hard to deliver dynamic visual tools like our workflow designer with SWT, at least for us. And we felt limited in the customization. We were not always able to customize everything we wanted on the platform, not just the appearance, but also the behavior. We had a lot of hacky workarounds. And also the desktop-only architecture was a problem. So when we started developing, we realized that we needed an online version of our application for the online workspace we wanted to host. So we needed a web browser version. So we had to create a new project to maintain a web version of that application. So we had two different teams that were developing the same features. So anytime we added something to the desktop version, we needed to add it to the web version. And the teams usually played catch up with the features. And so it was basically duplicating the development efforts, which was really a headache. And finally, the hiring. So it was very difficult in our area to find people that were already knowledgeable about Eclipse RCP. So that usually meant that when we hired someone, we had to train them on Eclipse RCP before they could be contributing to the project. So White Theia solved it for us. So first is the web tech stack. So since Theia is mostly UI framework agnostic, we were able to pick the UI libraries that helped us to develop the modern and responsive UI we envision. So we've used React with a bunch of libraries that helped us develop things like a visual workflow designer and so on. The modular platform. So that means we could easily extend Theia, and the way it has been architected make it very easy to customize. You're really able to customize every detail of the behavior and the appearance, which is great, and it's easy to do. And we also have access to VS Code extensions. So that means we didn't lose any features that we had with Eclipse plugin for the language support, for example. That also using Theia, we were able to switch to using only one code base for both desktop and web browser. So that was also great, meaning we were able to merge both teams and then focus on a single project, which really sped up things, and we were not duplicating the development effort anymore. And finally, it's also made the automated testing much easier. So that's something we always struggled with the Eclipse RCP version of our application. We didn't manage to have automated testing to be very stable. And now with Eclipse Theia, thanks to the Playwright package that is provided, it makes things quite easy. So the result of that were that we accelerated the delivery of our rich visual editors, and it reduced the maintenance overhead overall. So on this slide, you can see the comparison between the old UI that was developed with Eclipse RCP, and below you see the new UI that was done with Theia. So we are quite happy with the changes and the improvements that we achieved by choosing Theia instead of Eclipse RCP. Now a quick architecture overview, so it's very high level. So of course we have Theia that's providing us with the application shell, the editors, some views, the menu and commands API, and so on. And then we have the Martini Designer extension. So that's the extensions that we developed that are providing and extending Theia with our custom visual editors, the custom views, and the tooling that is specific for us. We also use some VS Code extensions, as I mentioned, for language support, for things like syntax highlighting, and also Git, which are also customized by our Martini Designer extensions who are making use of it. We also have a runtime that's called Martini Runtime. That's the thing that actually executes these services and workflows that you develop with Martini Designer. So it is a Java-based runtime. So we are bundling it with a JVM inside Martini Designer, which is starting the JVM and managing it. And then the communication between the two is done through HTTP and WebSocket for the events. And finally, we also have external systems like the Lonti console that serves as a marketplace that does the cloud deployment to things like hosted version of the runtime or the online Martini workspace. And it also serves as a user directory for APIs. All right, next I want to talk about the AI capabilities. So last year we've released our first version of Martini Designer, and right around that time we were thinking of how we could integrate AI features into it. And that's at the same time we've seen the first few commits of the AI. So that was like a great timing for us because we've been able to use the AI from the start and use it extensively. And it's really allowed us to focus on the features that we wanted to provide to our users rather than implementation details like communications with various LLM providers and MCP support and protocol support and so on. So that was great. So what we have so far is we have a support agent. It answers user questions about Martini features and assists in resolving issues directly within the IDE. We have the designer agent that generates REST APIs, data models, workflows, code, and database setups on demand. We also have context to work on completions. It provides intelligent AI-powered suggestions based on the project and workspace context. Then we have Ask AI. So it's basically AI embedded throughout the UI. You can ask AI about anywhere in an editor, a code editor, a console line from a problem in the problem view. You can ask it to generate code directly in embedded code editors that we have in the everywhere in the UI. And finally, for the near-term features that we're going to be working on, so we're looking towards enhancing all the agents that we have so they can handle more complex scenarios and basically be able to build anything. All right, it's time for a demo. So what you're seeing here is the web version of Martini Designer. There's a lot of features in Martini Designer, so I will not be able to demo everything. I will be focusing on the AI features that we've been focusing on developing this year. So here in the AI chat view, you can interact with the agents that we've implemented. So we can start by trying the support agent. So I've asked it, how do I use API scopes in Martini Designer? And so the first thing that it does is running the search Martini documentation tool that comes from our MCP server called Lonti Knowledge. So we've implemented that thanks to the MCP support in Theia AI. And what that tool does is basically it gets a query from the agent, and then it does a search on our vector store, which where we ingest all the documentation and knowledge about our platform. And then it returns an array of resources with the URI and the text related to it. And then the agent is capable of summarizing that and providing a better response to the user with the latest up-to-date documentation. And it can provide also the correct link to the resources it's used to generate the response. It can also, if ever the user is inquiring about features and want to start implementing, it can summarize the task for the designer agent as well. All right, next, let's try the designer agent. So I've prepared a prompt for that. So I'm going to ask the agent to create a REST API to manage contacts with CRUD operations. We're keeping things simple, so we're only asking the typical fields for a contact, persist the contacts in a HSQL database, and create table for it. And then we're putting all of that in a package called contact API. So the agent is going to start doing its thing. So we can see the first thing it does is creating a Martini package. So Martini package is just like a directory where you put everything that you're developing for Martini. So you have your APIs, your models, your workflows, and so on. So you can see it created a contact API package like I've asked, and it's going to start putting the generated files in there. So next, it created the data model for the contact, so we can have a look at that. You can see it's created inside the package. So it created a bunch of fields that are typical for a contact, like I've asked. And then it proceeded to creating SQL database connection and executing an SQL statement to set up the database for me, so we can look in the database view. We have a contact SQL connection, and we can look at the table inside of it, and we'll see that it created the contacts table for us. And then we can also see that the agent is keeping track of what it needs to do using a to-do list. And next, it proceeded to creating the workflows that are going to be used as operation handlers, so handling the CRUD operations. And finally, it created the REST API. So each time it's calling a tool like edit workflow, edit REST API, it's basically delegating to a dedicated agent that is specialized in creating, generating, and editing that type of file. And yeah, it should be done with it. So we can have a look at the REST API it created. So we can see here our REST API editor. It used a base path of /contacts. It added paths and operations for getting the list of all the contacts. You can see it's generating the summary and description and the responses for it with descriptions and a body. It's also providing the tags for everything. It's also generating the post request. So you can see it's correctly configuring the body parameter and everything. We also have paths for the ID and getting a specific operation. It's generating the pass parameter, etc. And then once you have all of that going, you can then ask the agent to do the implementation of the workflows. Currently, they are placeholders. That's something we're working on improving. So once you've asked the agent to generate the logic of the workflows, then you can run your API. So as you can see, it's quite quick to get something going. So it's really a great tool for prototyping and getting things started fast. It can also handle things like security and so on. Next, I want to demo a few more features for AI that we have integrated throughout our UI. So here I have a workflow called filter employees. This is our workflow designer. So it has an input array of employees with first name, last name, job title, and a birth year. And I want to filter that and output it in a different array. So for that, I'm gonna add a script node and connect it. And then I want to write a script that does that. So you can see that the auto completion is already kicking it and then provided something for me. And it's aware of the variables and properties that are available to the script. But I actually want to give it some instructions. So I'm going to click on the Ask AI and then say filter out employees born before 1990. So it's going to provide me with the changes, and then I can add some follow-ups like filter out manager there. So let's accept the changes. And now we can actually run the workflow to see if it works. So I've already set up input values for it to make things faster. So we can just run the workflow. Let's have a look at the output. And then we can see that it correctly generated a script that's working and giving us the correct filtered employees. Next, let's say that I have a workflow with a problem. So I've worked on my workflow and I'm getting a warning here on my fork node. I don't know what to do with it. So what I can do is click on the Ask AI button. It will start a new session with the support agent, providing it the editor context. So it will have access to the workflow itself and any problem that are associated with it. So you can see that it's providing me with steps on how to resolve, saying maybe I don't need that fork branch, and if I do, I should connect to it. Next, that also works with errors. So here I have a workflow that has a name input and a message output. And I've set a expression on the message so that I can have a greeting on it. And intentionally, I've had inserted a typo. So instead of name, it has a double M, which will not work. So let's try to run that. So as expected, we're getting an error because it cannot find the name property. So if the error message is too confusing and I don't know what to do with it, I can just right click and ask AI about it. So that will again start a new session with the support agent, but this time it's providing it the selected console line. And you can see that again, it can do some search on the Martini documentation to get some extra information to help the user troubleshoot the issues. And you can see that it's already detected that it's probably a typographical error. So I should change the name with double M to a single M to make it work. And then finally, I can show you our HTTP client. So our HTTP client is basically, think of Postman, but fully integrated inside of Martini Designer. So it's a great way to test the REST API or GraphQL API that you're developing with Martini because it can generate requests on the fly with only a few clicks. So it's really a great way to test your APIs. And it's also you can also export your request to Postman and import a Postman request as well. So let's say I want to test this inventory API and see if it's working well. So I'm gonna send a request and I get a response with a list of SKUs. And now let's say that I've done some changes to the API and I want to make sure that it's still working. So I want to generate some test that's gonna assert the response. So instead of writing it by hand, I can use Ask AI again and say generate test that asserts the SKU. So that usually can take a little while to generate all the tests. Right, there we go. So let's accept the changes. So you can see that it's able to generate tests that are specific for that response because the agent under the hood has access to the latest response from that request. So it's able to generate a bunch of tests with it. So now if we run those tests again, you can see that we have a new tab that appeared for the test result, and you can see that they are all passing. So if ever I do changes with my API, I can quickly iterate and add more tests for it. All right, that's it for the demo. And finally, if you want to try Martini Designer yourself, you can head to our website, lanti.com/martini/download. You can explore the desktop and online editions. We have a very generous free version that lets you try all the features. And as for the AI features that I've demonstrated today, they will be available in our next release that should come early November. All right, thank you for watching.
Thank you, Vivien, for your presentation. Let's just take a quick moment there to look at the questions to see if there's any questions pertaining to yours. So let's take a quick look here. So we do have, this would not work with VS Code ? Because it needs Theia, right? That is from Michael.
Yeah, those extensions are Theia extension. They are not VS Code extensions, so they do need Theia to run. They would not work with it.
Okay, thank you so much.